Let's get to it. Chat's calling for it, and clearly it is one of the biggest and buzziest aspects of this job because there is a figure in college football who is larger than life. There is a figure in Atlanta sports history who played for the Falcons. He played for the Braves, and he currently has a Jackson State team that ranks among the best at the FCS nationally, currently the pick to win the SWAC and get to the Celebration Bowl with the chance to win that HBCU national championship. It is Deion Sanders. So Deion Sanders is the first name mentioned in Dennis Dodd's list of Georgia Tech coaching candidates. Is it the fact that it's Deion Sanders, the potential hot coaching candidate, and the Atlanta aspect to this? Do you think that given the unique challenges that Georgia Tech has, Deion's a good answer? Is this anything more than just like buzz? Oh, shoot. I didn't mean to do that. Buzz. Okay. Is there anything more about like a buzziness or a trendiness to this that makes you believe that we could be having an emergency podcast in early December where we are talking about Deion Sanders as the Georgia Tech head football coach?
I don't think so. You can't rule it out, but if I'm Georgia Tech, I'm not hiring Deion. And it's got nothing to do with Deion. I just don't think that Deion is the right coach for this program because I think honestly, like what's if you hire Sanders, he's going to bring, like you said, buzz. He's going to generate a lot of immediate attention. People will be paying attention to your program. You will get headlines, and you will probably land a few recruits early in the process because of it. Because what Deion has done so far at Jackson State that has gotten him attention, it hasn't been getting to the Celebration Bowl or winning games. It has been the recruits that he's been able to flip from FBS schools and get them to come to an FCS school. So maybe you win a few recruiting battles early on that gets some attention. But like Bud was saying, Georgia Tech is a different animal when it comes to recruiting in that your pool of candidates is limited because of the academic requirements. So I don't know how well you will ever be able to recruit to Georgia Tech, no matter who the coach is. But I also think that even if you throw out the academic requirements, a mistake that a lot of schools often make, especially when they're struggling, is we need to get somebody in here who can recruit because we need to increase the talent level. And then you bring in a coach who has recruiting chops, but hasn't really shown the ability to build a program. I think Georgia Tech needs somebody who can build a program because the program is in terrible shape. And the best way to convince good players to come to your school is to actually show them you're capable of winning games. So I don't think Sanders is a good fit for the Yellow Jackets in that aspect. If I'm Georgia Tech and the new AD, whoever that ends up being, the first name I am calling is Coastal Carolina's Jamie Chadwell, because I think that he has shown at Coastal he can build a program. And also, if you think back to what Georgia Tech's most recent success was under Paul Johnson running that flex bone, Jamie Chadwell's not running an option offense, but he's running an offense that is basically a modern triple option offense. It just has more passing aspects to it. And I think that you bring that offense to it, you can fit in players who might not be 5- and 4-star guys who can fit in there and still have success. And you can kind of do like what Tennessee has done with Josh Heupel, where maybe you're not a great team, but you're scoring a lot of points and you're having fun and the fans are happy and it's generating buzz. And then maybe like Tennessee is currently having, you're also winning more games than you're losing and that things are going well. So I think Chadwell would make a ton of sense for Georgia Tech. He's number one on my board with a gap between him and anybody else at number 2.
You did just say Tennessee's not a great team, right?
I don't think it's a great team yet. I think it's a good team.
Fair. It's third best team in the SEC, though.
Yeah, there's a difference, though, between great and good. There are very few great teams, but you can be good. And most programs sit there with the delusion that they can be great when they can't. Your goal should just be to be good.
I had a hard time making a list for Georgia Tech. Deion certainly is on the list, given the media figures who are connecting him to this job. Like he has to be on there. I don't know if it would work out. Some of that probably is about Coach Prime, but some of it is also about what sort of resources he's going to have to work with there. Right? Will they continue to have more degrees and whatnot that they can funnel kids into to keep them eligible? How do they deal with the transfer portal?
I mean, do you get Shedeur? You get Shedeur, right? And Shedeur hit the jump he's made from freshman to sophomore season.
Is that good though? I mean, he's playing better at that level against the FBS team he played though last year. I mean, it was not pretty, right?
You're the scout.
Bachmeier's in the portal.
What?
Hank Bachmeier's in the portal. You can go get him.
Yeah.
Well, I think that maybe that whole staff's going to be in the portal pretty soon.
Yeah, I was about to say we're putting Boise State on auto fade, but don't let that secret out just yet. Danny, Deion.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like, I don't think anything should surprise us. And as far as program building, I went back and looked, Tom, at Jackson State's schedule before he got there, and their records, they weren't very good. I mean, he definitely infuses a ton of life and energy in the program. And I actually think, this is watching some of the documentary stuff at Jackson State. I actually think he's a better coach than he gets credit for, and a better disciplinarian than he gets credit for, because of the flash, because he's known to be a brash, cocky player who talks a lot of smack, but he holds him to a high standard. I mean, he said some things this August, I think it was, when it came out, and he's like, I don't want you guys wearing tank tops. Like, he had all these dress code rules that probably would have had accusations of racism if it was at Iowa, but he's at Jackson State and it's Deion, so he can do it. But like, it's old school mentality that he actually learned a lot of at Florida State. I think he would have more success than people think. He told me, I interviewed him at the Super Bowl in 2019, I think it was, that he had an SEC school lined up to take him. And it was an SEC West school that was coming off a disastrous hire from Clemson. And he said it was a deal that was in place, and they just kind of panicked at the last second. Hey, you're too inexperienced. There are going to be more schools that come calling. Selfishly, when we were talking with Bud about this before, I hope he gets it or some other job so he can get taken off the Florida State table, at least for now, because I think we talked about this. I think it would be one massive distraction and a really complicated, situation if, Florida State was in a position, which they clearly aren't now, off to a great start. It seems like that conversation is nuts to even have. But 4 weeks ago, it was very much like, ooh, what happens if the season goes the wrong way? But I think it'll take some of that, just that chatter that takes place on message boards that's out there of, Deion coming back to Tallahassee. And then the other thing too is Georgia Tech upside. Like, can they be great? I mean, I was a senior in high school, I think. Maybe I was a junior high school. We won a national championship. Like, this is a program. Granted, that's delusional now to think they could be that. But I do think 8 or 9 or 10 wins is more than reasonable. And I would say they can be better than Stanford, Vanderbilt, Northwestern. Are there academic standards that can they? And that would be my number one question. If I'm
no,
Deion.
they're not as tough as Stanford,
but they do have challenges, and that's my number one
sure.
question. If I'm Deion or anybody else, how many players are you going to give me? How many guys are we going to get that we can get in, and we're not going to have to listen to our academic standard? I need these guys, and I'm sure that's part of Deion's conversation. If he's even thinking about this schedule, is not only my son Shedeur, can he get in? What about Travis Hunter and all these other guys? Because I guarantee you, if those players, or if it's Mike Zimmer as an analyst on the staff, you think he went to Jackson State just to learn behind Deion? I think there's a bigger picture in play here that everybody involved is aware of. And if there's a good opportunity, I think Deion's going to take it.
The SEC school, Deion having that job and then not getting it is interesting, because I don't know if I buy the idea that they didn't hire him because of experience. Like he told you, because they hired a guy with an equal amount of coordinator and head coaching experience in Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman was an offensive line coach, right? So I think it was more like Sam Pittman has this great staff lined up.
Right.
With Odom and potentially Briles, we can bring this here. I'll be figurehead. I can recruit type thing. We have heard, though, that Hunter Yurosek, the AD at Arkansas, was very impressed in his interview.
With Sanders?
Yeah.
Interesting. Which Monken cousin would you want? Jeff or Todd? Todd's on Dennis's list, the Georgia offensive coordinator. Jeff obviously would be a return to because Paul Johnson came from Navy. You would be bringing the option back. And if you are,
wasn't that why they ran off Paul Johnson? Like, they were tired of the option, which makes
he is
no
passing
sense.
a lot more now, though. I think he's passing a lot more this year. If you want to go conspiracy, to showcase that he can
100%
get out of there.
Like, they are throwing the ball a lot more than they usually do at Army.
Oh, and 100%, that's what he's doing.
I would love to see it kind of along Tom's line of thinking is, use a lot of those concepts that people don't see and don't like, but throw in some wrinkles, put it in the shotgun, let a quarterback throw it that can, because you do have, like, clearly at Army, you have limitations of the type of athlete you're going to get. And some of the quarterback play there has just been, it's an athlete playing quarterback. You get somebody who can actually play quarterback, then you can throw it. And you don't have to throw it 40, 50 times a game. You just have to throw it 20, 25. And all of a sudden, that offense becomes really complicated to shut down.
What's the best? What is the ceiling? The best possible hire that you could imagine for Georgia Tech?
Jamie
Nick
Chadwell.
Saban.
Chadwell. somebody,
Why not? Isn't he the
somebody in the chat said Kirby's going to get bored and just want the challenge. Kirby's like, yeah, I'll go take it. What do you think?
I think of coaches that they could reasonably get. It's Chadwell.
What about Lance Leipold? That was an interesting one. Will just dropped in
not
the chat.
leaving Kansas for Georgia Tech. You don't leave. I mean, I understand that
Yeah, I
Kansas
don't think
is
so
on
either.
the pecking order, but like if Lance Leipold leaves Kansas, it's going to be for a program that he feels like can win conference titles and get to the playoff. I don't think anybody looks at Georgia Tech that way.
If you were power ranking the 3 Power 5 jobs that are open, is it Nebraska 1, then Georgia Tech, then sexy Iowa? Or is it
No, it's
No,
Arizona State.
Yeah.
Over Georgia Tech, not over Nebraska.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm not saying it now, but I think there's a case to be made that 10, 15 years from now, Arizona State's a better job than Nebraska.
Do they
can buy
get
that.
drafted into the Super League if we think 2 big Super Leagues are coming?
I think that they are desired by the Big 12 right now, and the Pac-12 very much wants to keep them. So if we see movement there, they're going to go to one of the remaining power conferences. I don't think they're Big 10 or SEC, but I'm just saying, if like you've talked about it on the show, like with the population demographics of people leaving California for the state, you look at Nebraska right now, that's not happening there. So I think that, down the line, Arizona State might be a much better job than Nebraska. The key difference will be if Nebraska's the money it's getting from the Big 10 will probably hold it off for a while, though.
We agree Georgia Tech will go offense, though, right? Or at least figurehead who agrees to bring in an exciting offense or a unique offense.
If it's a defense,
Can't do this again with the ticket sales.
No, if it's defensive, then it's got to be somebody with previous head coaching experience who's also a good recruiter.
Right. Yeah.
Charlie Strong.
Who is floating?
You'd be excited if you're a Georgia Tech fan and you hired
No.
Charlie Strong.
Listen, Charlie Strong has about the same record as Steve Sarkisian.
I wouldn't be excited if we hired Steve Sarkisian.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sarkisian has the upside, but I mean, Charlie Strong without Teddy Bridgewater as a head coach,
Not great.
terrible.
Yeah.
Right. He captained South Florida with Willie's players, and Willie had built up a really nice roster at USF before things started to go south with him as a head coach. 10-2. Other than that, Texas never had a winning season. Louisville without Bridgewater, not good.
What
Galaxy brain thinking here. If you've got recruiting restrictions, then you're not losing recruiting battles. Dan Mullen, this is the job for you.
I actually thought about this. Now he lives in Atlanta now.
Like
that would be he's very, very good at scheme, I think, but he's also very good on TV, man. If you guys watch Dan Mullen, like ESPN hit on one there. That's and on audio too. Like when he can just cut loose and he's not limited to 10 seconds for a little TV snippet. Maybe he doesn't want to coach. He's enjoying doing wakeboarding quite a bit, it appears, via Twitter and Instagram. But that's where he's living right now. I could see it.
Any other names?
Somebody else mentioned it in the chat too.
He would
What
win.
about Bronco Mendenhall? Is at Virginia, which faced kind of a similar situation as far as who you can recruit. He's familiar in the ACC.
He's got a podcast right now with our old colleague Brian Fisher, and the very first episode was Bronco Mendenhall talking about how much of a healthier mindset he's in, not being a college football coach. If he just automatically moved past that and took the Georgia Tech job, that would be a surprise.
See how he feels in November.
That would be a big change in tone.
Here's one from producer Jordan in the chat. I think is interesting. What about Jeff Lebby?
I think him to Arizona State might make, and if we're talking about what jobs are better, I think if I'm him, I'm going to Arizona State all day long over Georgia Tech.